Welcome, everyone. This is a recording of the session that we did on the 13th of June in GMT plus 8 in the ASEAN area of the world, focusing on Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Brunei, Cambodia, in the countries in this part of the world. So there's a little bit of flavor towards that. The examples will be given to that. Now you're seeing on here MYNOG. What is MYNOG? Right? And we want to give a big thanks and congratulations to the MYNOG team because it was a great success on the conference that they had at MYNOG. So MYNOG 11, packed. I've been in several MYNOGs and I'm, really just overjoyed seeing the collaboration, all the different engineers talking to each other, meeting each other, working with each other. Network operation groups are critical for how we keep the internet and telecom all glued together. So if you haven't been to a network operations group, kind of check it out. And within the region, since we're focusing on the ASEAN region and APT, Asia Pacific region, check out apnog.org. Right. So this is the crew that gathered during the Apricot conference, and they were consulting with each other, and they share with each other, and they work with each other of all the different NOGs in the region. So there's a lot of powerful collaboration, really strong community whose focus is to build community. And building community is key to what we're talking about now with Shadowserver and what we need to do to actually use open source and public benefit tools to actually get a lot of the risk in our networks reduced so we keep fighting and pushing back against the badness that are trying to use our networks and basically harm people these days, in various different ways. So today, what we're going to be going through and covering, we'll talk about the Shadowserver Foundation. Because a lot of people go like, who is Shadowserver? So we're going to cover that so everybody understands and knows it. We're going to go through and leverage, show how Shadowserver can be leveraged with a couple of key incidents. We're going to go through the 9/11 S5 malware, which is a big takedown led by the law enforcement in the United States and collaborating around the world. We're going to talk that one. Then we're going to talk about Europol and their work with Operational Endgame. Through Shadowserver, we'll show both two different examples of how Shadowserver works with law enforcement and how you can use these tools to actually get this malware off your network, right? And then we're going to, of course, how do you sign up? Those of you who are listening who have not signed up to Shadowserver, we're going to help you out so you can see how to sign up and get connected and what we do behind the scenes to help support you. So that way you kind of know, lifting up the hood. So we're kind of showing you more of what we do inside Shadowserver to support you, our constituents. And then we're going to explain how to add Shadowserver into your daily cybersecurity healthy habits. What's the key thing? You don't have to go out there and be a security expert to actually reduce the risk on your network. That's a myth. The myth, people say, oh, I need to have more super cybersecurity talent and I don't have it, so I can't do anything. We're going to dispel that myth. And it shows some examples where you can just healthy security habits of going out there, finding some things from the Shadowserver reports and getting them fixed. Now, who am I? My name's Barry Green. I'm a security resiliency architect. I've been building technology and working with people on running networks and architecting networks for like multiple decades. I go back a long ways. And through all that journey, since Shadowserver has existed, I've always been leveraging Shadowserver to help protect my networks, right? So I'm a big fan of Shadowserver. And right now I'm spending a lot of time with Shadowserver to actually do a lot of this outreach work and do my part with this nonprofit cybersecurity world, right? So that's me. Now, everything here, we always kind of say, what is the confidentiality of this? This is public, right? In the industry, if you haven't seen this before, we use the traffic light protocol, TLP. You hear TLP clear, TLP red, TLP amber strict, right? These are terms we use to actually maintain the confidentiality of what we're doing here. TLP clear means you can share it with anybody and everybody. Please share this. Let people know about this webinar. Let them know where they get the slides. And, go out there and share this. This is really important with it. Now, what we hope to do by the end of this, we hope that those of you who are not signed up to Shadowserver, you sign up to Shadowserver, right? And then those of you who are getting the Shadowserver reports and not using the API with your Grafana or Splunk or, Maltego or whatever tools you're using to sign up with the API. And then we're going to use gives examples of how to mitigate your risk. Use a report and to mitigate risk. Well, these two examples we're going to give is going to be important for that. Now, again, what is our goal? When we look at all the organizations signed up in ASEAN, it looks like all the green space. That's a lot of IP addresses, but it's only a few organizations, because when you look at it, there's 185 organizations when we look at it from autonomous system, compared to 6,000 plus who are not yet signed up. It's those 6,000 plus that we want to target to say, hey, let's get you signed up. Let's help you out. Let's get everybody connected so you're using these free reports. And that's the key thing. That's what we're trying to get after here. Now, step one, everybody here individually. Here's a key thing. Number one, subscribe to the Shadowserver mailing list. This is you as an individual. This is not your company. So anybody listening here, you don't need anybody's permission. You got your personal email address, sign up to the Shadowserver public mailing list. Why? Because 2 to 3 times a week, Shadowserver is kicking out an alert. Hey, this vendor is vulnerable. Here's the vulnerability. Hey, here's a malware takedown that happened. You can find the malware in the reports. Hey, here's a new critical exploit that went active exploit, right? We send these alerts all the time to show you where you can get the data to actually go fix the network, or to explain that there is risk. There have been many times where researchers have contacted Shadowserver and let us know that there's a risk, and the risk hasn't been used by the bad guys yet, and Shadowserver will kick off the reports. Say, fix this. And we'll be watching, and all of a sudden hospitals get hacked, and vendors get hacked, and banks get hacked, right? Because they're not paying attention to fix something that is there and it goes active exploit. So this is why it's important to sign up to this, and then sign up to the social media, right? It's Twitter X, InfoSec Exchange, LinkedIn, Blue Sky. Sign up there because the alerts will go out there too. So we send an email, we send it out social media. And then videos like this, when we're doing talks and videos and interviews, we now have a YouTube channel because we're going to build up our knowledge base so that way you can more effectively use the Shadowserver reports to get things fixed. All right. So, but who is Shadowserver? Let's walk through that. Shadowserver is critical to the internet infrastructure for many different reasons. And we're going to touch on some of those reasons here today. But the key thing that Shadowserver is about, it's a nonprofit, and it's supported through the donations and contributions and members of the Shadowserver Alliance. Right. So what the Shadowserver Alliance is about, it's about organizations who actually have the same mission as Shadowserver. Let's build towards a threat-free internet. Let's reduce the risk. Let's not have all the bad guys run rampant across the net. Let's go clean things up. And then to do that, an organization who says, hey, I don't want to be attacked, they know that tools all over, computers in Philippines and Thailand and Malaysia get hacked and then used to attack an institution in Chile or in France, right? And so if you want to protect yourself, you can't just put a wall around yourself anymore. You got to go out there and basically help others get the level of security that you have too. And that's what the Alliance is all about. Now, as the way we kind of structure this, just so people know, we're upfront 501(c)(3), that's a nonprofit in the United States and in Europe through what they call the Dutch Stichting, which is both of them are non-for-profit sort of organizational structures, right? And it's all about providing these quality threat intelligence for free to you, right? They're not free, right? The Alliance is paying for it. That's how we're covering the operational cost. But the core thing is the core services to get you the details you need as internet defenders, right? Now, the impact of this is the trust that we build up, and we'll be talking about that, allows us to punch above our weight in the sense of how we have a measurable impact. Because we can go out there and say, hey, here's a vulnerability, here's what you need to do to reduce your risk, and we can watch through our dashboard how the risk is reduced across the world as people take action. And that's what we're trying to do. This 20 years of partnership out there in collaboration with the security community is it's a trust that's hard to build up. You can't just start up something and say, hey, trust me. It takes time to build up operational trust. Now,
who's our core audience, because we write our tools towards our core audience. So one level of a core audience is all the national CSIRTs. These are national institutions, and we work with them because they have a responsibility in their country, and we get the tools to them so they can actually protect their citizens and protect the companies inside the country. Then all the network operators. Right now we're over 9,000. You listen to this video, 5 months from now, from like August this year, we hope to get even more. That's the goal here, is to get more organizations signed up to Shadowserver and downloading the reports, using the APIs, and using it to protect your network. And then the other group we work with is law enforcement. We'll give examples of how we're working with the law enforcement here in a minute for helping them do their job. Because if you want to push back on cyber crime, then you got to go after the criminals. You can't just sit there and let the criminals go loose. And that's something that law enforcement has been doing a really good job in learning more and more internationally. All right. Now, our tool set. We got sinkhole operations. Sinkhole operations is when, say like an antivirus vendor, they found a piece of malware, they figured out how to capture the command and control, what they would do so they don't have to go out there and spend money to figure out how to tell everybody you're infected, right? You got this malware all over the place. What they'll do is say, hey, Shadowserver, we got a sinkhole. Can you guys run the sinkhole? And then we'll do a blog to announce, here's what we found with this particular malware. And then Shadowserver runs the sinkhole, all right? And then as soon as the blog comes out, we publish a report to everybody. Here's the piece of malware. This is the vendor. Here's their blog. They figured out how to fix it. We got it sinkholed. Look at your report. And this is malware inside your network, right? So that's a typical sinkhole, right? So let me give an example of that. Back when I was doing security at Juniper Networks, right? Every morning I come in there, check my Shadowserver report. This is like back 2007. This is many years ago. So 2007, I see my Shadowserver report from, coming in when I'm at Juniper, and I got 19 computers infected with MedBrute. So these are computers inside my network that are talking to a sinkhole because MedBrute the command and control was captured, and I got alerts. So immediately went out there with my team. We got those 19 computers off the network and stopped any sort of lateral movement, and we did a bunch of forensics, and there's a different story of where that led to other interesting innovations out there. But it all started with a researcher talking to Shadowserver, taking the command and control, put into a sinkhole. This is happening all the time. So this is beyond scanning a network. That's the other thing we do, is we do scanning. We scan billions of addresses every single day, V4 and V6, right? And we're looking for misconfigurations. We're looking for vulnerable systems. We're looking for exposures. These are the sort of things that we look for. And it's a powerful tool on that one. Then we have one of the largest honeynet systems on the planet. And this is where we put little triggers out there to say, oh, is it being exploited with our sensors, right? And then we got this massive malware analysis infrastructure. If you're an endpoint protection, or you're a company that captures binaries and you analyze binaries, if you want to double your daily binary, count, say, I'm getting 1,500 binaries a day. Okay, so I call up Shadowserver, you set up a little agreement and say, okay, we're going to set the barrier at, I'm doing 1,500 average a day, so we'll set the peering rate at 2,000 binaries. So you send your 1,500 up, and you get 1,500 new ones back. You just doubled, just because you peered with Shadowserver. So we'll be doing a webinar on that aspect of it too. If you're interested in it, you want to find out before the webinar that we talk about our malware repository and sandbox, and you let us know. But this is one of the unique tools with it. Again, our focus is going towards the network operators. So when you put all this together, all these different tools, sinkholes, vulnerability notifications, botnets, the feeds from service providers that feed things into us, right? All this goes into the reporting that goes out to you. So it's more than say, oh, Shadowserver just scans. Nope. Scanning is just one of many different things, and it's being added to, right? So this is a massive beyond the attack surface. We're adding things like working with the anti-DDoS community and say, okay, hey, here's a way we can identify sources of DDoS in a more effective way. Here's investigative teams figuring out new things. They keep on calling and say, here's a new vulnerability. Let's go get that fixed. And then the interaction with the Shadowserver Alliance. the Shadowserver Alliance interaction is fantastic, and this is where we encourage any organization, again, if you want a threat-free internet, invest in the Shadowserver Alliance, because what happens is the Alliance works with the Shadowserver teams to actually build new tools, new capabilities, deploy new technology for the betterment and more security of the internet, right? It delivers out, again, the goal is to get to you these tools. So, think of that. Now, there's a lot of threat intelligence, there's a lot of alerts. It goes to different audiences. Shadowserver's focus is on the people who actually can take action. These are people in network operations centers, security operations centers, incident response teams, people who can go out there and get things fixed on a network, put ACL in, remove boxes from the network. That's the sort of audience that Shadowserver is tooled for, right? It's tooled towards the action part, right? Is it? Now, there are other organizations who will maybe partner with Shadowserver and they can do other sort of like dashboard sort of things with it, but this is kind of what we focus on with it. And this gets in the network reports, right? We got 9,000 now of vetted subscribers, in national CSIRTs in all these different countries, and it's all about, here's the reports that devices that are exposed to attack or are misconfigured and can be attacked, or vulnerable, they have a vulnerability that is going to get abused, or systems that are abusable, right, that can be used to attack others, or they're already compromised, or they become source of the attacks, or the host malicious C2, right, or they're part of the attacker infrastructure, right? All these sort of things are part of the reports. This is why it's important to go through that. So let's take an example of that. Let's take 9/11 S5. 9/11 S5 was orchestrated by a multi-force law enforcement organization, and it went through with that, and it was arrested. The person was arrested who was running it, right? So this is a big victory for the good guys. Now, when you look at something like this, Shadowserver is usually involved with all these international takedowns. And what happens, it's either two roles, but it's always the fine print. It's always the little things at the end of it, right? Because Shadowserver's goal here is to be facilitators and clear the path and take care of the things that, police forces and law enforcement, can't take care of, like, how do you manage a sinkhole? How do you process a bunch of scripts? How do you process a bunch of logs? How do you get the word out to like all the organizations that are infected? Right? That's that's little quiet things behind the scenes that we work on. So in this one, the 9/11 S5, it's this big botnet, all right, that was used by criminals, and it is a proxy service, and it was used to break into things. It was used to like do phishing, used to do spam. You can read all the different uses of the 9/11, proxy service. Now, what did it do? Hey, do you need a free VPN? Oh yeah, I need a free VPN. I want to watch. I live in the Philippines and I want to watch the football match in the UK, but I can't do that because UK blocks me because of geofencing. I'm not. They only allow people from UK to see the football match. And you go like, okay, hey, guess what? There's a free VPN service you can use. I downloaded the free VPN service. This is really good. I can see the football match in the UK. Fantastic. I love this service. Oh, by the way, there's a backdoor in your network and you're now part of a criminal network. So now your computer, wherever your computer's at, is part of a criminal network because you downloaded this free VPN service. There were a bunch of different free VPN services out there, right, that did this, where the software is out there and did it. So that's what that's what they did. They also put their backdoor software in a bunch of other software that people would download to say, I don't want to buy software from Adobe, so I'll use this fake Adobe, PDF reader. I'll use that instead. Or I don't want to use this art tool. I'll use this different one. And they all have backdoors in it, right? So this is what kind of how S11 built up. And they offer these services to criminals. So criminals would then pay the proxy network money, and they make, this is how they make money. They advertise on the dark web. So this was starting to be shut down back in 2022, and then finally came to a head a few weeks ago in June, the first part of June, and you had a big takedown and arrest operations, that took it down. Now, what do we do about it? Right? So this is where one of the roles that Shadowserver comes in. Hey, we need somebody to do a sync call, capture the command and control. Now we have all the command and control for IP addresses and domain names, go to a Shadowserver sinkhole. Then from there, the different investigators and Shadowserver can then find out who the victims are, and let's get everybody notified so they get it fixed. And that's what we're doing right now. That's what this is all about. And there are a lot of tools out there. So what Shadowserver usually does is, again, at the beginning, subscribe to the public mailing list, sign up to the social media, because immediately when this happens, Shadowserver puts out a report. So there's a report. Hey, 9/11 SOX proxy. The data is shared in this report, and it's also in this other report. Take the details in the report, whether you use the download from the email or you use the API, and then look for in the infection. So you see this list on sinkhole event on the infection 9/11 SOX proxy, SOX 5 proxy. And there, that will identify the particular devices that are a part of this. And you want to get it out of there. Now, there's still a lot out there. So this is an example from our dashboard. This is public information. You can go to the dashboard.shadowserver.org, and you look up there. You take the sources, okay? The sources here are sinkholes. So I got sinkhole and sinkhole 6. Sinkhole 6 is IPv6. Then you have different tags for different things you can look for. In this case, we're looking for the 9/11 SOX proxy, SOX 5 proxy. So you put that in there, and then you have a nice little graph. And you look down and see the legend. When you're in red, you got over 30,000 IPs, right? So you can see the places where, okay, Japan, US, different places, Spain, right? Okay, you see where people are kind of using the proxy service with it. And you see in ASEAN, there are a bunch down there. So in Southeast Asia, see, this is a different view. Same thing. Instead of the first map, that's the world map, right? And then I can use the same thing. Put the source in sinkhole 6, SOX proxy. Now we see ASEAN. See, now I pick countries. I pick ASEAN. So you can see Thailand, over 2,000, places where people are using the free proxy, right? The free VPN service, right? So you go out, you can identify in your specific reports and go out there and get this cleaned up. Why do you want to get it cleaned up? Think of it this way. Bad guy is in your network, or a good guy's in your network, and he wants to watch the video, and he's bored, and he can't because your security policy blocks him. Okay, let me go download a free VPN service, and I bypass the security. Now, that person just downloaded and put a backdoor on your network. So that could be on your network now, and this is a tool where you can go out there and identify and get it out. All right, so you can have somebody there. Hey, I dropped my VPN in, and now this command and control signals will go to the Shadowserver sinkhole, and this will be part of the reporting on your network. So this is an easy way where you can say, did anybody bypass my security and try to watch TV at work? If you're like a financial institution, a government agency, critical infrastructure, this is free. This is a free report to go out there and check for this, right? So that's an example of it. Let's give another example. Operational Endgame. This is run by Europol out of Europe. This is the European police organization. And you got the details here, and you see a lot more law enforcement organizations all teamed together here, right? This was a big collaborative effort. It's still ongoing, right? So if you go to operation-endgame.com, you can see a lot more details of what they're doing. Again, Shadowservers, small print, part of the collaboration effort. Shadowserver helped the whole investigative effort. But in this case, Shadowserver isn't doing the sinkhole. Shadowserver is receiving the data from other parts of the takedown infrastructure. And then what we do is we run those reports and then put them into special reports. All right, so we have special reports because it's not off our platform, but we take the data and run it through our platform. All right, and this is one of the things that organizations can do. We can take your data about people who have been victimized and run it through our reports and then send it out. So in this case, we take one of the things that was intercepted and disrupted with Endgame, the smoke loader malware. All right, smoke loader malware, a generic backdoor. And this generic backdoor was, range of capabilities, and you had different modules included, and the bad guys used it all over the place, and so here, smoke loader taken down. So now all those devices out there who have smoke loaded up could be your network. You can have, inside your network, you can have smoke loaded. And so you go to this report, and then you look at it, and you look for the infection, you look for all the different devices that have smoke loader identified. And that's a special report, right, with this that we do with it. Now, example of that here, I took one national CSIRT's data, so this is for a country, and I pulled it down, anonymized it, right, because we don't want to have anybody lose face, right? So we have the report type, and then in there with the report type, we kind of like, know that I knocked down a whole bunch of the columns. It's a bunch of data you get in the reports. I mean, this is like, a tenth of the data you get across of all the different fields at the top, right? So I just knocked out, blocked out the source IP and blocked out the autonomous system number. And then all I did is on the infection, I just did a search for smoke loader. This wasn't hard. I just loaded up. I got an Apple computer, so I used Numbers, which is the Apple computer. You can use Google's sheet. You can use, Excel, right? Any of these tools, you can just quickly go through and say, okay, infection, look for smoke loader. Here's all the devices. Here's what I need to do to go out there and contact. If it's your own organization, it's easy. If you're a national CSIRT, then you need to go contact everybody out there. So you can do the same thing over with an API. You can do a query on an API to the particular report for the event for sinkhole HTTP and query, give me all the infections of smoke loader. You can write that as a script in the API. And you notice on here, there's still a lot out there. There's a lot out there, and you notice the concentration. Smoke loader, a lot of it is India. Right? That'll be interesting, the red zones. It's always interesting to see where the hot spots are, geographically. Now, when we look at it from an ASEAN perspective, okay, there's a number of them out there, and this is one of the ways you can go out there and get them fixed. So you check out your organization, and this is one of the things where we say punch above our weight, because a lot of things like this, if you go and get the report and you download it, right, and you go and clean it up, all of a sudden this would be eliminated out of ASEAN. You go like, boom, gone. All right, we don't have any of them. Like over there, Singapore, you have 36 on Singapore. Singapore can easily go out there. The national CSIRT, can go out there and say, let's get all 36 instances off, gone, right? And it's measured. And you look at this chart again a week from now, oh, all gone, right? So smoke loader is off of Singapore networks as an example. So this is the sort of, when we talk about punch above our weight, the sort of effectiveness we do. Now we got more special reports coming out. Here's 2 more. And again, what you do is you go reach out, you go sign up for the public mailing list, and when updated special reports or new special reports come out on Operation Endgame, we send everybody, says, here's an alert. Now, if you go like, I missed them, how can I get them again? Send an email to contact@shadowserver.org. That opens up a ticket and say, hey, can you send me my special reports again? And then we'll send you the special reports. That's simple. You dialogue with Shadowserver. Shadowserver, our operations team, we dialogue with our constituents. That's really, really important with it. So these are 2 different examples of what you're using for it. But now you go, how do I sign up? This sounds cool. I'm not signed up. How do I sign up? All right, so this is some of the stuff now we're doing with Shadowserver. So let's speak some truth. Shadowserver has been quiet. It's been working with law enforcement for years, but it really hasn't had the money or resources to actually go out there and do this sort of outreach, to have a YouTube channel, to get people to kind of like teach, to bring more community together, right? It's worked its butt off, but it's always been hindered because working to get more people on the alliance so we can go out there and empower our constituents, empower our peers. And this is one of the things we've been really gearing up with in 2024 as a difference, thanks to some good key strategic funding, right? Join the alliance is really important. So some of the things, our key theme right now that we're doing is we want to increase with our peers. You're our peers, your fellow geeks. We all kind of want the same thing. We want to have a more safer and digitally safe and cyber safe and threat-free internet. That's what we want to work on together. So we want to empower you, increase your capability so you can get more done, your capacity, all right? So you can actually go after more complicated sort of risk. And then your confidence, especially. Confidence to say like, oh, that wasn't hard. I can do that. I just got this fixed. I reduced my risk. I can do the next one now, right? That confidence. And that's the sort of thing we're trying to put a lot of emphasis in, is really work hard together. We got to forge a new path is what we're trying to do in our optimization. Now, how do you start? Go to shadowserver.org, look for the subscribe in the top right, and you're going to be asked for certain information. Who you are, your organization, email addresses, phone numbers. If you have PGP or GPG keys, put those in, right? Because we want to see who you are, right? And then what's your autonomous system number? What's your CIDR blocks, your IP blocks? What's your domain names? We're going to ask for these. If you're a national CSIRT, list things, all right? If the national CSIRT knows you, let them know so we can contact them. And we're doing all this to kind of validate that you are who you say you are, and you have authorization for these IP addresses and these domain names, right? So we're not giving it out to the bad guys. We're very, very particular about who gets the data, right? It's only the people who are authorized to get the data. We're not an organization where here's the data and anybody can access it. That's not Shadowserver. We don't go out there sell the data. We don't, the data only goes to the authorized people out there. So you'll get a form like this to subscribe, you fill it in, and then we'll be interacting with you and then setting up the report structure with it. Again, the data sharing that we do, if you're Network B, you only get Network B's data. If your Network A is a competitor, Network C is a competitor, Network D is a competitor, nobody gets each other's data. It's all in one swim lane. Here's my data. Here's what I get with it, right? And we do that to protect the privacy, and we do that to protect the integrity. We've been doing this for 20 years. It's worked well. It's gained trust. This is one of the reasons why national CSIRTs trust us and law enforcement agencies trust Shadowserver. So we can do this sort of work. The only exception to that is national CSIRTs. So a certified national CSIRT, a legitimate authority. You can't just say, hey, I'm a CSIRT. Okay, are you compliant with the first.org open CSIRT specifications for protecting data in your network? And they'll talk to us and go like, what's that? And say, okay, let's work on this. All right, you're not really ready for this, right? So these are key things in national CSIRTs that we look for with it, right? But there's a lot. We have 120 plus national CSIRTs who are receiving the data, and their job is to work with you too in their country. So this is something for you to kind of like consider as we're working directly with them to say, how can we mitigate risk within our country? Now, you send the details in, we validated you, you're approved. So now what we're going to do inside Shadowserver is we're going to set up reports. We got our tooling inside, and we're going to set up a mailing list for you. So that way you have a mailing list for your organization. So it makes it easy. So this mailing list system, you can add many names inside your organization to it. So it's not all stuck on that part. All right, so many people can get it. It's not like one contact. We want to have many people who actually have a chance to do things, right? That's what we want to work on, right? So we set that up. Then we have 3 core type reports. So many different types of reports. We keep on coming up with even more reports. So we have a report that we set up where we look at all the IP v4 and v6 underneath your autonomous system. So that's one type of report. Then we got another type of report where you can put in v4, v6, and they can duplicate. In other words, if it's the same ones in the ASN, we don't send you 2 of the same. We send the ones that are not covered by the ASN. And these could be cloud instances. These can be special resources somewhere. If you're edge network, they can be like allocated from a particular service provider, right? So that's that type of report. And then the RHOS is the domains. All the domains that need to be monitored. And you can have a lot of domains that need to be monitored. These are important because when we do the malware analysis and we put things in the sandbox, or we have things in sinkholes, that's what the tag we look for. It said, there we go, synkey.org. Synkey.org's got computers infected in it. That's when we go through and that type of report. So there's the 3 main ones. We set up the email so you start getting the emails. All right, we set up the ASNs, right? And one of the things we do every year or once a quarter is we send an update so you can review all this information. Now, default wise, we have a default set of about 120 reports we send to you, but we have more reports out there. And so one of the things to check with is you say, okay, which reports am I getting? Which reports do I don't want to get? Which reports am I missing? That might help me. And that's a dialogue you have. You send an email message to contact, and then you work with our team, and then we make sure you're getting the right reports with that. Another thing that sometimes people request is say, hey, can you send us the latest event chart? Because the view that we have, and you may not have this if you just get emails, is what is the number of events? An event is a identified risk. It may be a critical risk, or maybe a medium risk, or maybe just a information, right? But it's the identified potential risk out there. So you can see this is from a big service provider that has lots of risk on a ISP here, right, on there, right? And then finally, API keys. We've been doing a lot of API keys. And by API keys, you can have multiple people, multiple tools, because a lot of times I know my best practice is if I'm setting up Maltego, then I have an API key from Maltego. If I have if I do setting up Grafana and I want to put the dashboard into Grafana, I set up Grafana. If I want to pull it into my Splunk logs, then I pull it into my Splunk logs, right? So then I would have an API for me for my little tool, right? If I'm using like my own instance of Intel MQ, right? That's perfectly okay because it puts the user in the user type, and we have these out there. There's no big difference on Shadowserver side. So you don't have to have one key and then share the key. Then of course, when you share details like that, it's always a risk when you start sharing. So best common practice is do independent keys. And we have all this online. You go to the GitHub, Wiki, Shadowserver Foundation. We have all the details of the APIs online, all the schemas online. So you can see the daily reports, got tons of documentation. We keep on adding to this. And you're going to see more of this because me is my role in helping out with Shadowserver. I'm an operator guy. I'm a guy who build networks, operate networks, build a technology of a network. So I'm tapping into my network of peers to help this write better DevOps and SecOps integration. So I'm going around to peers and say, hey, let's get a better documentation on how to do Grafana. Or we just did a webinar. You'll see this coming out on Intel MQ, right? Aaron Kaplan, who's one of the co-writers of Intel MQ, he did a webinar on that one. So we got that, right? So this is one of the themes. This is why sign up to the social media. You'll see these, and sign up to the YouTube channel. All right. Let's give an example of APIs in action. All right. My old gig over at Akamai, when it came in, Shadowserver was heavily used. Why was it heavily used? Because Akamai is an edge company. You have tens of thousands of computers on the edge, all over the network, geographically spread all over the place. That's them as an edge company. Akamai, Fastly, Cloudflare, they're all this massive number of computers on the edge. So how do you go and maintain the security on tens of thousands of computers all over the place that have to be exposed to the internet? So what they have, an organization like Akamai, is they say, here's our server, here's a lockdown version, here's exactly what should be on it, here's exactly what should be exposed. So they have a known, they know the computer should be X, and X equals this port, this encryption key, this sort of service, right? That's very strict, right? Use Shadowserver report, scans it all, right? And then they have a script, and they will look at it, because you can script things like this, and basically the script says, do you comply with X? Do you comply with the standard? If you comply with the standard, good. If you don't comply with the standard, what's different? Open up a ticket. This is all scripted. Automatically open up a ticket, send it to the SOC, remove the server from operations. Let's go investigate. Oh, was it misconfigured? Then an update did not get configured right? Is there a bug in the system? Did we miss something in the code? Or could somebody have gotten into the system, right? All those things are possible, right? But notice, I listed 5 things. 4 of those things were just operational, glitch, code errors, right? A lot of times your risk happens on the edge of your network, your attack surface, because of not like, you forgot something. It happened because something just happened. But then something just happened opens up a risk. And that's where tools like this, and this is all, then when the API came out, the API'd it all, right? It made it simple. This is all typical of security operations scripting that you can do with Shadowserver. And remember, you can set this up, and the API access is a public benefit service that is provided by Shadowserver and supported by all those organizations that are part of the Shadowserver Alliance who want to have a threat-free internet, right? So you can just get it going and get it started with it, right? So this is an example of it. More tools out there. Intel MQ, Report Manager tool. Intel MQ, I'll point in the link to this presentation to the webinar that we did on Intel MQ, and more of that will be coming out, right, with that one. We got other organizations who kind of say, hey, I got this big data lake. I pulled that Shadowserver into Elasticsearch. Yep, we could do that too. So you stay tuned to the GitHub, with our wiki, because we got a lot more coming out with it. Splunk, we got a version out there. We're going to get an even better version. I got a volunteer crew from Splunk. He's going to be helping us out, the whole community, and doing here's how we can better pull the API directly into Splunk and use some of the tools into that. So if you're a Splunk loser, stay tuned. We'll go around and talk to others also in that. If you got other log formats, here's a conversion tool for the common event format, right? So all this is linked on here. You can kind of check that out. The other thing to kind of check out is our dashboard. I've been using the dashboard throughout. We're going to do a special webinar just on the dashboard itself, so you guys can see how you can use it to explain risk to management. But one of the important things on here is which vulnerability do I need to fix first? And we track which ones get exploited, right? So the exploited vulnerabilities shows what is the top thing getting hit right now. So if I go through and say, here's my Shadowserver, what do I need to fix today? You go out there when this came out, okay, CVE 1014. That means 2014. And this risk is still being used on Realtek, right? And you can go out there and then look at your reports and go why do I got Realtek in my network? Let's go figure this out. Let's go fix this because it's being exploited. And let's go investigate, right? So this is kind of like a tool that many organizations are starting to find, oh, this is useful because I've gone through the basics and this is other things with it. Now, one other thing you can do with the reports is you can say, okay, slow down. Give me Delta mode. Delta mode is if I'm getting all these emails every day because I'm using the email format, that's too many emails. So what we do is we send you the complete list on Sunday. So you get everything once a week. And then if there's a core difference, then you'll get updates during the week. So the emails that come in, these are the diffs. These are the changes, right? And that's what we call it, the delta mode. It's the delta between the weekly baseline and if something new popped up, all right? So you can request delta mode with that. Now cut down the number of emails you get. So now, is this hard? You're getting all this data. It's free. You can take action on it. Is this hard? No, it's not. Me as an experienced operator running big, small, sideways networks, cloud networks, whatever, I can tell you, I've been using Shadowserver data for a long, long time. And it's not costly because one, I get the data as a public benefit, right? Thanks to the Shadowserver Alliance, it's a public benefit. But it also comes through with it is just habits. I just know from my early upbringing as a young technician and engineer of it's the key thing is if you want to be ready to go, if you want to be secure, it's all about the daily habits that you do. So you don't need to pay to subscribe to any of these threat service. You don't need to buy expensive scan and service. You don't need to go out there and find some surface area organization to let you know what the bad guys and threat actors can see in your network. Shadowserver provides it all, right? It provides it all with email reports or APIs, right? All you need to do is have the desire to act. That's a key thing. Remember, Shadowserver wants to increase your capability, right? Your capacity and your confidence. And it's the confidence to act. Take action. go out there and get something done. So let's give a story of that. Back 2012, I headed over to Indonesia. All right, I'm working for a large Indonesian cell phone company, right? And my goal was simple. My goal was to help the boss turn the whole company around and make money. Let's go clean up the network. Let's go get things fixed on the network. Let's work with the team. Let's work with the vendors, right? But immediately when I looked at the network and I got my Shadowserver reports, remember, I do it everywhere. I look at my Shadowserver reports, I go like, holy cow, we're infected. We got bad guys all over the network. So I go to my boss, we need to build a cybersecurity team. He goes like, make me money first. Typical, right? Anybody going to your board of directors saying, I need help. Guess what? With Shadowserver, if the board of directors tells you, let's focus on the business first, we don't have time for this other thing, you can do something. You can do something. So here's what I did. The company hired, college kids, right? That's part of a good, if you're a big company in Indonesia, you're always tapping into and helping support young talent coming out of university. So they have a fresh out of college graduate university program. So I took 2 of these engineers, computer science engineers, straight out of university, 2 weeks after their graduation, they joined the company and said, come on board. You work for me, and you're going to become security gurus. Nobody complained. So I had them pick one Shadowserver report a week, and we went down and started tracking down the issues and fixing things and turning them into security gurus. Within 6 months, these kids were teaching me things. That's how good they are, right? They were teaching me things, and we were knocking down nation-state threat actors from all over the world, knocking off cyber criminals, and then finally found that, here's fraud going on. People actually stealing access on the network, right? And then all of a sudden, they became the heart of the security team, right? Where do we start with the kids? All the details are right there, Shadowserver. We got more and more reports and details with it, and if you have a question, you send a question over to the team, and we plug you in, right? I plug them into the community. And you have all the details with it, and they looked at it, right? So, and then the rhythm looked like this. We had 50 different major reports that we identified out of hundreds of issues. Where did we start, right? So they go like, wow, that's a lot. So don't worry about it. We'll just pick one. Just pick one, all right? Let's pick simple network management protocol. We pick that. Here's the report. And then we review the risk. What do we need to do? Here's how to do it. So I mentored them. First couple of weeks, I mentored them with it. Then they started picking up what to do. They go like, all right, let's go mitigate the risk. What do I need to do? ACL, software upgrade. They figure out what to do to mitigate the risk. And then we document how do we make sure the risk doesn't happen again, right? The key thing, how does it doesn't happen again? And then we ask the question, could somebody have done something and used this to get into the network and go somewhere else? Could they have done what they call lateral movement, use here to break into something else? And we do that investigation. And if we think, yep, that could be, then we did a deeper investigation. All right? Then at the same time, we go out there, take a deep breath, and work on the next report. One report at a time. One report at a time. All right? And it's just like one, the next, the next, the next. And it cleans it all up. So let's take an example of that first one I did. Simple network management protocol. Should never, ever, ever, ever be exposed on the internet. Why? Because you can get data like this. UDP port 161. That's simple network management protocol. Oh, look at this. Hey, I know it's a Catalyst 4500 layer 3 switch with this software version. Interesting. Let's go to Cisco. Hey, that's got a bunch of vulnerabilities in it. Hey, let's go to the dark web. Here's how I can load up my own little bot on that particular software, or change out the firmware, or change out, voila. Here's how I break into it, right? That should never be on the net. So let's take and fix the SNMP problem, right? Because all this is being public, you want to clean it up, right? So this is cut and paste off of Live Network. It was out there. So this is what I mean about, it's the simple things. Back in my military days, we called it preventive maintenance inspection. If you wanted to go out there and make sure your unit is ready to go in a moment's notice, you did these PMIs, the preventive maintenance inspection, and the quality control people would run through and say, let me see how you do your PMIs. Can you actually get things fixed? So here, organization with no security budget, right? Grabs new engineers right out of college. You pick the Shadowserver reports, and you just act. Reflect, learn, repeat. Reflect, learn, repeat. Over and over again. And then there you go. It's, you don't have to try to fix everything. You just keep at it. And if try to fix everything is then something to watch out for, right? So this is out of a technique that's called the 7 disciplines of execution, or 4 disciplines of execution. And in the 4 disciplines of execution, they say straight up that if you have a whole bunch of number of goals and you keep on increasing your goals, your effectiveness goes down. So if I got 2 to 3 things I want to do on Shadowserver reports, I can probably get 2 to 3 done. Once they're done, you go 2 or 3 more. Once those are done, you do 2 or 3 more. But if I try to do 10, I may get 1 done. I get 1 done, I still got 9 left. Okay, that's depressing. I feel overwhelmed. All right? And then the boss comes through and says, oh, we're so vulnerable. Fix it all now. I got 20. And you never get it done. This is one of the big leadership mistakes. Big leadership mistakes is people get ambitious, aggressive. They want to do more, not less. Ironically, if you try to do more, you get less done. So if you try to do, a rhythm of action, a scoreboard, and you get 2 or 3 things done, 2 or 3 things done, then the next one, then you feel good because you said, I got this done. The next week, I got 2 more done. Then the next week, I got 2 more done. 3 more months down the road, you got your network secure. That's the principle around it. And remember, it's not by yourself. You can also spread the workload out. Send reports to the network team, the security team, the product team, the SOC team, the abuse team, the help desk team. You can send the reports around so it's not just all on you, right? Email reports from Shadowserver can go to multiple organizations with multiple report types. So you can send the report types that the abuse team needs, which is different from the network team, which is different from the customer support fixing malware on customer networks, right? So you can tune this where it's not all on you. You can actually set it up where it's tapping into the full entire company with it. But the key thing, remember, if Shadowserver sees it, the bad guys see it. So don't you want to get a report every single day to know what the bad guys see on your network? And that's the core thing with the Shadowserver, right? Reporting infrastructure, so you can see what the risks are. Because if it pops up on the Shadowserver list, the bad guys can see it too. The only reason they haven't got around to you is because there's so many richer targets out there. It doesn't mean you're not vulnerable. It just means that the bad guys aren't paying attention to you right now. Someday they will, and then you're in trouble, right? So what's it look? Let's look at some of these reports out there. So these are summary reports straight off of the public dashboard. So the bad guys can do this too. They can go to the Shadowserver public dashboard and they can say, okay, how many devices in Indonesia are infected and targeting others? So these are malware botnets inside networks in Indonesia, over 126,000, right? So these are compromised and affected devices, and they hit the sinkhole, right? And go like, all right? So these are things that need to be cleaned up. You need to get them off your network. And these aren't from scams. These are devices inside your firewall. These are inside your network. Remember my Juniper example, MebRoot, right? 19 computers. They were inside 3 layers of firewall. Juniper had every type of security you can think of, and it was all deployed. It was really locked down, tight operation, and it's still up-to-date antivirus, up-to-date Microsoft Windows, and it still got into the network. What saved us? Shadowserver report. 19 computers, MebRoot, got them off the network, fixed the problem, track down how the entry point came in there, and fix the entry point, right? That's the value of this sort of reporting. So this is a sinkhole example, right? Then you got scams. Now scams are like, this is something that is exposed, this is something that is vulnerable, this is something that's being exploited, right? So you can see the numbers on here, all right? These are all numbers that can be knocked down. 1.2 million in Singapore, that's not good. That's a lot of risk in Singapore that Singapore is carrying just from the scans, right? These are things that these are, again, the cost to remediate is time. These reports are free. So if you're in Singapore and you want to knock down that 1.2 million with the scans, subscribe to the reports, right? Those are important because these are all vulnerabilities that will be exploited by bad guys, right? They're not exploited they haven't exploited you right now because they haven't got around to you, right? It's all a matter of time. And there's even more out there. So you take devices used for DDoS amplification. In other words, they'll use these devices and use DDoS against others. You got critical infrastructure, operational technology. These one of the projects that Shadowserver got commissioned to do, because Shadowserver gets commissioned to actually build new tools. Remember the Alliance? So there was a grant from the European Union to say, start looking for OT. OT is like, here is a device inside of a water plant that measures water quality. And it should not be exposed on the internet. But what will happen is Shadowserver will write the tool for it and look for it. And then it will show up on this report. And look for IoT devices for like a cyber city, where you get a smart city. Again, they should not show up on the internet. But then Shadowserver in its telemetry, all of a sudden, boom, it's there. So this is more and more of the OT sort of for like the smart cities, the critical infrastructure, the OT systems. These are you're going to see more of these sort of scan capabilities built into through the Shadowserver Alliance work. And then you got websites that are compromised. So all this, these are all risks that can be mitigated, right? To clean things up with it. Now, what's interesting, a few months back, one of our colleagues over at Volncheck was they're getting ready to launch their product, and their product is like helping organizations, again, mitigate the risk. And they're Shadowserver friends, we work with each other on different things as in the cybersecurity community. And they pumped out this interesting sort of bubble chart of like, okay, which organizations out there of the vendors and security organizations and ISACs and the CSERTs, are really good at putting the word out that there's something critical happening. Shadowserver was number one, which kind of surprised a lot of us, but it didn't surprise us at Shadowserver because everybody works really, really hard at Shadowserver to get information to you, say, here's the risk, get this fixed quick. Again, sign up to your public, sign up to the social media so you know when to act quick, right? So then you ask yourself this question. If Shadowserver is that effective, and like working to become even more effective with new capabilities out there, how can your team leverage? Talk to your team. Do what you can do right now, those of you who are listening to this right now on the recording, but go out there and share this recording and have a consultation. What can we do right now? Because you can subscribe to the reports right now and then start using it, and then, it's going to help you with your network, right? But then you turn around and ask your vendors that you spend and giving them money to do cybersecurity and says, what are you doing with the Shadowserver Alliance? Are you helping them? Are you an ally? Or are you trying to solve the problem, which is let's have a threat-free internet? Ask these questions of your vendors, right? Get them to, say, like, what are you doing about this? I mean, I'm getting all this information from Shadowserver. What are you doing really to help me on my network? And then ask your telcos, your ISPs, your cloud operators, your edge operators. Are you working with Shadowserver? Are you using it to protect your network? How are you using it? Share with me. What are you doing special on your network? Are you doing it with your customers like us? Like if you're an ISP, are you using this to contact your our peers or other people who are customers on your network? Ask these questions with it. It's important to ask this stuff. So now is a time period where, we welcome your questions. We take in questions all sorts of different ways, right? So you send it to contacts, send it to information. You can use the public mail list. You can ask on social media. You can contact individuals in Shadowserver, myself, bgreen at shadowserver.org, and many other people. We love to have the questions. We love the dialogue. But one of the things that can help out internally is having internal champions for Shadowserver. So when I go to an organization, I'll set up two things. Number one is I'll set up an internal alias. Like if I have a company, example.com, I'll set up an alias Shadowserver Champions. Then I get all the geeks inside Shadowserver, inside the company, and we all get on that mailing list so we can talk to each other. And then in the world of chat, then if I have Slack or I have WebEx or I have, Teams or whatever, I'll set up a channel, a chat group where it's also Shadowserver Champions. So we're all talking to each other internally. Because if you're a medium to large size organization, don't try to actually do all this on your own. Build a team inside your organization. And then it makes it easier to interact and ask questions over the Shadowserver. And think broadly, infrastructure protection area, your cloud space, IT departments, all this, think broadly out there. And then think, is it worth for us to join the Shadowserver Alliance? Is it worth for us to invest in, let's get everybody's capability, capacity, and confidence to take action all throughout the world? Is that going to make our network safer? So you can kind of think through this and say, is it all about putting a wall around my network? Or do I want to go out there and, hey, let's help a country or a organization that has a lot of infected devices, get those infected devices cleaned up. Hey, Shadowserver, this is what you guys do. Can you do more? Can you keep it going? Can you add more? Or here's an idea. That's a part of joining the Alliance. Again, watch out for these reports. You get, 2 to 3 a week is our pace of operations, of sending critical updates. Go look at this report. Get it fixed right now, with more of these. And then if you're in the United States, or even if you're not in the United States, remember I talked about the exploited vulnerabilities. There are countries, and this is where the dashboard will expand. There are countries now, and the United States is one of them, through CISA, that says that if you are a government network or associated with a government network, all right, when CISA goes out there and says, here's a exploited vulnerability, and we see it as a threat to our infrastructure, they will put it on the known exploited vulnerability list. All right, the CISA KEV list. We call it the KEV list, right? And you will given a timetable. You shall get this cleaned up by this time. All right, so they'll give you a timetable. So this is an easy way where you can use the KEV list here. You select KEV for yes. So then exploited vulnerabilities is all the ones that are KEV, right? And then you can say, which ones do I need to make sure I got taken care of? And then I go look at them in my reports and say, okay, I got like 5 of these. I got 4 of these. I got to go get them cleaned up today. This is a value. It's super valuable to you. So, and we also mark them up in the reports, right? So it's marked on the KEV list. So this is another tool you can use with it. So again, the checklist: sign up to the public mailing list. Go out there and get details for signing up for your reports. Get the API. Start small. Don't go out there when you get your reports and start saying, I'm going to try to fix everything. Just pick one. Pick one, fix it that week. Pick the next one, fix it the next week. Next week, do 2. Then 2 more the next week. It's the rhythm of action, to me, that has always been the secret of getting risk off my networks. It hasn't been like trying to fix it all. It's been the rhythm over and over again. And you don't need to be super gurus to do this, because a lot of the basics are just basics. Let's not have Telnet. Let's not have TFTP. Let's not have SNMP, right? There's very simple things out there, right? That's the core thing with it. Again, sign on to the mail list, set up with the social media, and then sign up for the YouTube channel, which if you're seeing this right now, you're on the YouTube channel. So congratulations. Please subscribe so you get updates when you get the next Shadowserver one. So in summary, Shadowserver reporting, free. It's a public service funded by the Shadowserver Alliance. So those companies who want to get a threat-free internet and whose business model is all about having a threat-free internet, right? And then you can get these reports delivered via email or APIs, all right? And then you can work with us to set up a rhythm of action. That's kind of like the summary of it. If you have questions, go to our dashboard, contact us on Twitter, go to contact@shadowserver.org, look at Shadowserver/partners for the Alliance, and we hope to see lots of you and have more people sign up. And, this is June of 2024, and hopefully by August we'll get, instead of 9,000 organizations, we'll get 10,000 organizations. That's what we're shooting for. Okay, thank you very much. And you can use the comments here also. We'll be watching the comments in the YouTube channel. So we're looking forward to see you in the comments.